Films are such an interesting way to study history. We think about all the different films that tell us about periods of time that we don't know anything about because we weren't there. It's not about contemporary life. And it can really allow students to understand what life was like back then and give them a really good picture. It's also about the impact of the film, because you see with some films, when you're looking at them in say the 1930s or 1940s, just how people's ideas and concepts of the world were shaped by film, by going to the cinema and seeing films, and they're exposed to places they'd never seen before, concepts they'd never even thought about. And I think that's what's really exciting about thinking about film and history.
I think for us it's also important to think about cinema history that differs, I think, in a way from film history. And I'm thinking about the context of distribution and exhibition of films, because for me film history and history on film is also about understanding the way in which films from the past were used, were watched. For example, when it comes to very early films, it's so interesting to understand that Victorians and Edwardians would go to the music hall or to the town hall or even to the union hall, and they will be exposed to different forms of entertainment or education, and that will often include film. So in a way I can also ignore to some degree what's in the films themselves and think more about the broader context of the distribution and the exhibition. That applies to early films, but I discuss with students distribution of films in America in the 1950s, and the phenomenon of the drive-in is not about the film, it's about the cinema. And I think that's also something the students really find exciting. I see Todd Browning's Freaks is the kind of film we will be studying with our students, and it's really interesting in historical terms because it reveals a lot about its context and the attitude towards disabled people in the 1930s. Many of the actors, in fact, are well known for having had disabilities.
Yeah, I think that those are the kind of films we study, those iconic films. We also study iconic films like The Elephant Man, where we try to understand the different ways that films are constructed and how film and history can work together in order to gain a really good understanding of a subject at university.
That's interesting because perhaps we will look at the Victorian context of the film, whereas we will be looking at the work of David Lynch and the characteristics of the film, the look of the film in comparison to other films he made.